I'm very surprised when I see some people are very careful about what they eat. They are very careful about their physical health, and at the same time they do not think at all about their spirit, about their heart, about their mind, and what happens to their spiritual things. They are not thinking about their feelings, their thoughts, their beliefs, and they are so important to our spiritual health. So you know that the things that we eat sometimes may be useful, sometimes they may be harmful, but at the same time, if they are harmful, it is easy to cure. It is easy to improve your health. But if something bad, something evil happens to your mind and to your heart, it is very difficult to remove it. And at the same time, the things that happen to our body are somehow tolerable. But if you have some spiritual and mental sufferings, they are sometimes intolerable. And this is very difficult for you. This is very hard for you to tolerate. Now, you know that human being is seeking perfection. Every human being likes to be perfect. There is enough capacity, there is enough talent in the human being to improve himself and to evolve into higher stages, to develop and improve himself. Therefore, if we want to improve our spiritual health, if we want to be more perfect, we need an educational system. We need some methods and ways to improve our spiritual health. And if we are not spiritually healthy, if we do not improve ourselves in this field, we would have many problems in our life. There would be many spiritual sufferings because, in fact, our spirit and our mind have their own delicate points and complexity. So it is not very easy to improve them. And because of this, parents and teachers should be very careful and should be very sensitive to these points when they are dealing with children and with students. So their speech, their words and deeds are important, and they can influence their children and their students by their words and deeds and behavior. So if we want to improve our children and our students in this field, we should teach them how to be self-reliant. We should teach them how to be self-sufficient economically. We should teach them and educate them how to have their social responsibility and take their social responsibilities in this society. This is very significant. Hello and welcome to our channel. This is Dr. Mahmoud Karimi sharing his experience with you in the field of education and how to educate and bring up your children and your students. If we want to work in the field of education, in fact, we should be careful and we should think about three important and significant points. The first point is knowing our addressee. Our addressee may be our children or our student. The second point is knowing the teacher and the trainer. And the third point is the content that we have decided to teach our addressee. So these three are very important. Now, the first point concerns knowing our addressees, means our children or our students. You know that knowledge is the basis for all kinds of education. For example, if you are a mechanic and you have decided to repair a car, if you don't know the bolts and nuts, if you don't know different pieces of the automobile, so how can you decide which part and which piece of this car has a problem? So it is impossible. So it means that knowledge here is so important. At the same time, if you want to upgrade a machine, you need to have enough knowledge about its present situation and how it is possible to improve it and upgrade it into a higher state and a higher position. Children and students have the same position. So children and students have their own talents, have their own capacities, their own feelings, their own thoughts and beliefs. And if we want to have a good behavior toward our children and students, and if we want our children and students listen to us and be influenced by us, we should know them carefully. We should have a proper and a true knowledge of them. And the most important thing is knowing how to react toward them, knowing different reactions and also interactions and associations with them. So proper interactions with our students and with our children is so significant. Even the problems that you see in many families originate from lack of knowledge, because the man usually does not know his wife, does not know the feelings and thoughts of his wife. And the woman also sometimes does not know the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs and the emotions of her husband. And so when you face this lack of knowledge and this ignorance can lead to a kind of, conflict. And there would be many problems for the families. Just a simple kind of knowledge is not useful. Even sometimes those simple kinds may harm. For example, there are some general things. They say, okay, women say that men are usually silent people, taciturn people. They are always watching TV. They are stingy people, and they do not like to buy anything. They do not like to be in the markets with their family. So, and men would say that, okay, women are somehow talkative people. They always like to be in the market. They are somehow hypersensitive. You see, these are some accusations that do not help the problems of family to be solved. But if you have a good and proper and precise knowledge of your wife or your husband, your children or your students, it would definitely help you to decide how to solve the problems, how to remove the conflicts in your life, in the school, and in any other position. But how can we have a good knowledge and a true knowledge of our addressee, a true knowledge of our wives, our husbands, our students, our children? You know that children also are important, because if you are not successful in interacting with your children, it means that there is a problem of knowledge, because you do not know your children well. You do not know how to deal with your children, because you do not know, in fact, what kind of character and personality your child or your student has. And therefore, this is the source of the problem. This is the origin of the problem. Mother doesn't know how to behave toward, for example, her daughter or her son. The teacher doesn't know how to behave toward his student, and the same is for all kinds of teachers and, or we can say, trainers who want to change and reform the character of somebody. Our system of education, I mean the modern system of education, also has the same problems. Means they are not all also okay. For example, if our educational system had some applied mechanism and applied knowledge, experience for facing students and how to deal with the students, our schools would be more successful in what they aim to teach. But now our schools are not good. Our schools are not educating students well. And when they are graduated, you see that many of them are not the people you like to be in the society. They are different from standard people, from qualified people that we like to be good members of our society. For example, you see that in the primary school, in the elementary school, usually students are at the desk. They are put at the desk. But at this age category, children usually like to have some physical exercises, sport activities, But when you send them to school, they would do something else. And we force them to do something else. This shows that our educational system also is not a successful and a standard system. There are different age categories, and depending on these different age categories, we would have different ways of education and different ways of how to influence children and how to influence students. For example, the first 7 years are a very good and a very efficient time for education. And the second 7 years also are considered the second priority. Now, for the first 7 years, you know that children are ready to learn. Children are ready to change themselves. So because in the first 7 years, when you see these children, they are something like mud. They are something like clay. You can mold them into every shape and every form you like. Yes, you can mold a piece of clay into a piece of chess, or you can put it into a pottery object. This is something possible. Children also are like a mud in our hands. We can change and reform their characters. So these 7 years, in the first 7 years and in this age category, education is very important. If you could teach children at this age category, in fact, you are very successful. But when they are older, when they get older and older, it is like this piece of clay that becomes drier and drier. So it would be inflexible. Then you cannot mold it into different things. If you even force it to change, it would be broken. This is something that makes, in fact, interaction here difficult. This is the role of this age category in education. Now, we would have some categorization for the features of our addressee. These features and these categorization would be in 4 fields. The first field concerns the physical features of our addressee. The second field, that every teacher and every parent is responsible to learn and also influence the addressee, the children or the students, is the intellectual and mental features. The third one is the emotional features, and the fourth one is the social features. So these 4 are very important, very significant in the process of education. Now, in education, if we want to succeed, so it is required to pay attention to these 4 features. Now, how can we improve these 4 features in our addressee? In fact, in our next videos, we would talk about them, about these 4 features, one by one, and you can learn how to deal with each of them in a good way.